The story begins by introducing a man named Liao Tai and his son, Liao Jie, who is currently in 5th grade. Every day after school, Liao Jie stops by the restaurant where his father works as a waiter. It was revealed that Liao Tai has been raising Liao Jie alone since his wife passed away. One evening, after finishing work, they return home. While Liao Tai is enjoying playing his saxophone, a beautiful woman named Lin Chen arrives to collect their rent. During their conversation, Lin Chen offers a newly available roadside shop owned by her boss, ready for lease. Apparently, Liao Tai once shared with Lin Chen his dream of starting a salon. However, he admits he currently lacks the money to make it happen. After Lin Chen leaves, Liao Tai begins altering Liao Jie's clothes, telling his son that instead of renting a house forever, they should save to buy a shop. Although his income is small, Liao Tai believes that with patience, they can save enough money in 3 years. Hearing this, Liao Jie feels excited, as opening a salon was his late mother's dream that she never got to fulfill. The next morning, as soon as he wakes up, Liao Jie eagerly counts down the days, dreaming about owning their shop. One afternoon, on his way home from school, he is bullied by 3 boys who mock his father for being poor. During this time, Liao Jie silently endures the taunts, afraid to fight back because they are much bigger than him. That evening, Liao Jie accompanies his father to a wedding party for his uncle. After the event, Liao Tai, having had too much to drink, begins vomiting. In his drunken state, he reveals to his son that he has just received a loan from his brother, enough to start a business, buy equipment, and even purchase a shop. Overjoyed, Liao Jie feels that their family's dream is finally within reach. The following morning, over breakfast, Liao Jie and Liao Tai discuss which shop they should buy. Liao Tai plans to ask Lin Chen about the shop her boss offered, hoping it is still available. That night, after work, Liao Tai remembers that Christmas is approaching. He decides he wants to buy Liao Jie a bicycle as a gift. While browsing in a bike shop, the owner mentions that land prices have increased, and as a result, the landlord has doubled the price of the shop. Shocked by this news, Liao Tai returns home and reads about the rising land prices in the newspaper. He sits in silence, overwhelmed, wondering how to break the news to Liao Jie that they no longer have enough money to buy the shop. The next day after school, it suddenly began to rain. While seeking shelter at a small shop, Liao Jie met an old man stepping out of a luxurious car. The man turned out to be Boss Xie, a wealthy and highly respected landowner in the city. Seeing Liao Jie drenched, Boss Xie felt pity and invited him into the car. Innocently, Liao Jie accepted. On the way, Boss Xie jokingly said he was planning to kidnap Liao Jie and asked if he was afraid. Since he didn't know the man, Liao Jie simply stared out of the window, silent and lost in thought. That evening, while having dinner at home, Liao Jie shared the story of the old man with his father. Upon realizing it was Boss Xie, Liao Tai explained that Boss Xie was the most feared landowner in the city. Anyone who dared to cause trouble in his territory would risk their life. People often called him the old fox for his cunning nature. Hearing this, Liao Jie was shocked. Amid their conversation, Liao Tai reluctantly admitted that they could no longer afford to buy the shop because its price had doubled. He told Liao Jie that they would need to save up again, which would take more time. Saddened by the news, Liao Jie quietly finished his meal. The next day, after school, Liao Jie saw Boss Xie again at the same shop. This time, he boldly approached him and declared that he wasn't afraid of him and already knew who he really was. Impressed by the child's courage, Boss Xie invited him into the car again. During the drive, Boss Xie revealed that he was aware of everything happening in his area, including how Liao Jie was often bullied by other boys at school. He offered to teach Liao Jie how to fight back, explaining that the key to winning is information. If Liao Jie knows his opponent's weakness, he can make them submit without ever needing to fight. That night, feeling frustrated that he couldn't yet fulfill his late mother's dream of opening a salon, Liao Jie cried alone in the park. Shortly after, Liao Tai found him and comforted him. Though their plans were delayed, Liao Tai assured him that someday their family's dream would come true. Time passed, and at the end of the month, Liao Tai fell ill due to the cold weather. One evening, Lin Chen came to collect their rent. Seeing Liao Tai's condition, Liao Jie explained his father's illness. Lin Chen checked on Liao Tai and then invited Liao Jie to eat out. At the shop, Liao Jie told Lin Chen about their plans to buy the shop and pleaded with her to help lower the price. If it was too difficult, he asked Lin Chen to take him to Boss Ye so he could negotiate himself. Touched by his determination, Lin Chen promised to try and help. The next day, as promised, Lin Chen took Liao Jie to Boss Ye's house. Upon arriving, Liao Jie was awestruck by the luxury of the mansion. When they finally met, Liao Jie immediately started negotiating the shop's price, but Boss Ye refused. He explained that emotions should never interfere with business, as empathy would only lead to failure. To demonstrate his point, Boss Ye held up a glass of water and used it to teach Liao Jie how to let go of empathy. The first step, he explained, was to drink the water while closing your eyes. Then, after swallowing, you finish by saying, "It's none of my business." That evening, Liao Tai saw Liao Jie being dropped off by Boss Ye, the infamous old fox. Worried, Liao Tai tried to warn Liao Jie to stay away from Boss Ye, fearing that he might get into trouble. However, Liao Jie brushed off his father's concerns, retreating to his room with the dismissive remark, "It's none of my business." A few days later, Christmas arrived. After finishing work that evening, Liao Tai hurried home, carrying Christmas presents and a brand new bicycle for Liao Jie. At first, Liao Jie was still sulking, but his mood quickly shifted when he saw the gifts his father had brought. As he unwrapped each one, his excitement grew. Finally, Liao Tai handed him a jacket and took him outside to reveal a bicycle as the special gift. In the end, they spent Christmas night happily riding through the neighborhood together. One evening at the restaurant, while waiting for his father to finish work, Liao Jie overheard Lin Chen talking with one of Boss Ye's business rivals. To his surprise, Lin Chen seemed to be planning a partnership to bring Boss Ye down, effectively betraying him. Alarmed by what he heard, Liao Jie quickly left to avoid being caught eavesdropping. On his way home, Liao Jie coincidentally ran into Boss Ye. Driving alone, Boss Ye invited Liao Jie to join him for a drive through the park. While passing a group of boys who often bullied Liao Jie, Boss Ye slowed the car deliberately, letting them see who was inside. Seeing their fearful expressions, Liao Jie felt immense satisfaction. He confessed to Boss Ye that he wished to be like him, feared and respected by everyone. While laughing, Boss Ye said that the key is money. If you have a lot of money, you will definitely be respected by people. Suddenly, Liao Jie remembered what he had overheard earlier and recounted the betrayal by Lin Chen. At that moment, Boss Ye appeared visibly stunned by the revelation. Sometime later, Lin Chen went to meet Boss Ye at his office. Furious at her betrayal, Boss Ye struck her, leaving her with visible bruises. The next night, as Liao Tai returned home from work, he was puzzled to find Lin Chen sitting outside their house, her face swollen and bruised. Concerned, he invited her inside. Through tears, Lin Chen explained that she had been fired by Boss Ye, who refused to believe her explanations and dismissed everything as excuses. Hearing this from his room, Liao Jie began to feel guilty. The following morning, while Liao Tai was cooking, Liao Jie told him about the shopkeeper across the street, who had passed away the day before. The shop was now rumored to be haunted, and its price might have dropped. Liao Jie then asked why they didn't consider buying it. However, Liao Tai sternly refused, saying they shouldn't exploit someone else's misfortune for personal gain. Instead of agreeing, Liao Jie retorted with a cold by saying that it's none of his business. Shocked by his son's response, Liao Tai slapped him, feeling the remark had gone too far. That afternoon, without his father's permission, Liao Jie decided to approach Boss Ye to request a lower price for the haunted shop. While waiting in front of a small shop, Liao Jie ran into the three boys who often bullied him. This time, brimming with confidence, Liao Jie confronted them, warning that they would regret it if they ever bothered him again. The boys, terrified, immediately ran away. After waiting for a long time, Boss Ye didn't show up. Determined, Liao Jie decided to go to Boss Ye's factory. When they finally met, Boss Ye refused to sell the shop at a lower price, causing Liao Jie to break down in tears. Seeing this, Boss Ye invited Liao Jie to his office to calm him down. Once Liao Jie was composed, Boss Ye shared a memory from years ago when he had encountered Liao Tai at a hospital. By chance, they had shared the same elevator. Liao Jie had just been born, and although Liao Tai was visibly happy, he tried to hide his joy out of consideration for Boss Xie, whose mother had passed away that same day. Boss Xie hadn't said a word about his loss, but Liao Tai's sensitivity and empathy left a lasting impression on him. After sharing the story, Boss Xie remarked that his mother and Liao Tai shared a similar trait. They cared too much about others' feelings. To Boss Xie, this was the mindset of a loser. Moments later, as it grew late, Boss Xie offered to drive Liao Jie home. During the ride, Boss Xie revealed that his mother had been a scavenger. Despite being born into poverty, Boss Xie had worked tirelessly to change his circumstances, hardening himself by abandoning any sense of empathy. As they talked, Liao Jie played music in the car, stirring memories for Boss Xie. He recalled his own childhood, living in poverty and relying on others' pity for shelter. Overwhelmed by the bitter memories, Boss Xie stopped the car. In that moment, he realized he and Liao Jie shared a common trait, a deep resentment toward poverty. Unexpectedly, Liao Jie declared that when he grew up, he didn't want to be like Boss Xie. The statement left Boss Xie speechless. The words mirrored something his late son had once said before his passing. In that moment, the old fox finally realized how cruel and heartless he had become. When they arrived at Liao Jie's home, before parting ways, Boss Xie had a change of heart. He agreed to lower the price of the shop for Liao Jie, promising to discuss the matter with Liao Tai the next day. Stunned by the decision, Liao Jie returned home, tears streaming down his face. That night, he wrote a heartfelt note to his father, which read, "Mother's dream has finally come true." The next day, as promised, Boss Xie visited Liao Tai. He told him that he had just evicted the family living in the shop, leaving it vacant. At that moment, Boss Xie offered to sell it to Liao Tai at a low price. However, Liao Tai declined. Instead, he pleaded with Boss Xie to let the family stay in the shop. Liao Tai explained that he didn't want them to suffer, especially since their father had just passed away. Hearing this, Boss Xie smiled with admiration. The Liao Tai he had known all this time hadn't changed, always caring about others. After work, when Liao Jie learned that his father had rejected Boss Xie's offer, he became furious and stormed out of the house. At the park, Liao Jie sat crying alone. Not long after, Liao Tai arrived and tried to comfort him. After listening to his father's explanation, Liao Jie finally understood and accepted his decision. Decades passed, and now Liao Jie was a successful adult. He had built a career in real estate. Unlike most real estate developers who focused on building luxury housing, Liao Jie's company specialized in creating affordable homes for low-income families. One morning, during a meeting, a colleague complained about Liao Jie's policy of always building free schools near the affordable housing projects. They argued that this approach reduced profits and could anger investors. Hearing this, Liao Jie took a sip of water and calmly responded, "It's none of my business." Moral lesson from the story: if life hands you poverty and bullies, just channel your inner old fox, negotiate like a boss, and remember that sometimes empathy is bad for business. Also, closing your eyes while drinking water might help you forget your worries, but it won't help you buy a shop.